which is the ugly truth is this education system is killing the students. And young people need an inclination when outlining powerful schools as they are the future of our society, the students. And technology has become very important in one's life, not only the adults, only also for the kids and the students now. Coming to the critical issue we are facing, they give a narrow and abstract view of education with just few linkages. Even the parents and the lecturers just send the students to the school so that they need to learn something. Sorry, they need to get the education so that they get a good job. All they know is like they need to get the good grades so that they get a good job in the society. But no one is focusing on how they are learning and how much are they learning in. So coming to this, they are experiencing the high levels of stress because of that, because they don't know what are they learning and why are they learning. Now even if we ask someone why is a plus b whole square is used for, no one can answer it properly. Can anyone? Seriously, anyone? Anyone from the students? A plus b whole square? How is it applied for? No one. So I wanted the students to learn why are they learning it. And coming to the hierarchy of the subjects too, they learn history because they need to know their cultural identity. Why do they need to know their cultural identity? By just reading through the books and having the theoretical knowledge, they don't know why are they learning it. And so all they need to do is like just read the materials. And when I was in intermediate, all we used to get is the materials, the question and the answers. The education system has become commercial these days, that all they need is the students to get the good scores so that the other students look at the scores and, oh yeah, this is the good education system where we get the good scores, and they come join, the other students can join to their schools. So they're not focusing on how much they are learning. And which I can tell you that learning environments may significantly impact on students' academic achievements. How can the foreign board walls can inspire a student? I didn't get anything. Like, I had to focus on the blackboard. Even after my lunch, I used to feel very sleepy in my physics period. I was like, oh, yawning every time. And even if in the circus, if we train a lion just to sit and stand, it is called as well-trained, but not a well-educated. So this is happening in the school. All they need to learn is from the book they're giving. And what I think is they need to understand, and these are never addressed before, like what the students are facing, and what are they, and what I think is like students need to identify it, discover, and then invent, and they can learn through this whole process. They need to apply so that they get more interest in how much they can learn, so that they can find a key what they are learning for. And even Michelle Obama is now focusing on the education system, which she said, take it outside. Why students feel more interested in field trips than the classrooms? Why not? Why is it? Like, they find something practical, they find something more interesting over there than on the just on the blackboard. And if they find it fine by themselves, they can identify and they can discover it. They can connect it to the abstract, to the real world, and which ultimately leads to the de-stressing of, and so that they can understand it more and they can perform good in their academic achievements. So not only designing a landscape for them, why do we go for a tour, like for a break? Because we find a good landscape, good scenery. Why do we relax? That's because we need a break. We find it's more environment friendly and everything. So I want to design not only the landscape, but I want them to get engaged over there and learn something from the environment too. Not only indoor, but also the outdoor places and everything. So I want to craft the environment for the education that inspires and builds the connection between the learning, discovery, and invention. So coming to the initial goals of study, I wanted to design it by studying these, like understanding the goals of the different educational methodologies, like Steiner and Montessori's. And I wanted to know how did they success and fail to. And exploring the possible connections between traditional subject fields and understand how space influences the educational learnings. Even walking through the boring corridors doesn't inspire me anything. If there's something interesting over there, yeah, we could learn something from that too. And I want to use the natural elements and stuff in the outdoor environment, also the indoor environment, so that they can actually show an impact on students' health. And if they are healthy, yeah, they could perform a good performance in their academics. And the spatial environments of K-12 education facilities may become more directly engaged in the curricula of K-12 learners, and does so in a way that supports engagement with both discovery, invention, and subjects. And coming to the proposed methodology, I want to critique the current educational system right now, which is going through, and the teaching methods and the hierarchy of subjects in education. Why math, history, and chemistry? Why not the dance and the drama daily? When I was in my school, we used to have the sports period just for once in a week. But I was interested in a throw ball. Why not every day? I wanted to play it every day, but we are not supposed to. I was even interested in my craft subjects, like making the things, making creations and everything. But we used to get only just once in a week. Why not that? And education and institution, they design the system. What is in the subjects, they has to learn it. And I want to go through the study about the types of the schools, Steiner, Montessori, Parapetetics. Parapetetics is a school where it is believed that the students has to study in the city so that they could learn what is happening in the city, the politics, the business and everything, they can know from that. And under the tree, I would mention that when my father used to say that he used to study under the tree. They used to have a blackboard under the tree and they used to study over there. Even that is a part of education, like why? It's not because of they don't have a facilities over there at that point of time. But now even we encourage the people to study outside the classrooms. Maybe they find it more interesting over there. And architecture of the school, how design can show an impact on the schools. And the educational process, the TED Talks of the Ken Robinson, and artificial intelligence, like how the robots are being trained, even though they doesn't have a basic knowledge about the world, what is happening out of the world. And I would like to do the case study research on IDEO, where they design the products, service, spaces, and interactive designs that bring them to the life, and they help the organization build creative cultures and internal systems required to sustain innovation and launch new ventures. And coming to the Institute Without Boundaries, which is run by Bruce Moore, if the students are coming from the different institutions, they are like they are coming like as if how they are trained from the different educational systems. But this, where the company wants to design the students according to them, where they give the knowledge like how they want it in their company, in that Institute Without Boundaries. And coming to the Google, they give opportunities to develop and invent something new and appreciate their work. They ask them to develop by themselves.
1 minute?
Yep. Sorry.
1 minute.
Yeah.
You got 1 minute to go.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry. And I wanted to design the synthesis according to that. And my aims are defining an environment for learning, redefining the learning process, and to create a new environment. And to test it and how does it work, and to de-stress which ultimately leads to the de-stressing of the education through the environmental design. Thank you. Yep.
Thanks very much. Hey, questions?
The panel?
Yeah, you guys, yeah.
I wondered. Kia ora, Lahari. Thank you for taking us through your proposal. Just a couple of questions. The first one is, Are you intending to undertake your research in New Zealand?
Well, the problem which I faced is through India. Yeah, I would like to do it in New Zealand.
New Zealand? Yep, I just have one recommendation to your critique around the school. So, not sure if you know, but the Kohanga Reo movement in New Zealand is a schooling system specifically acknowledging Māori ways of being, doing and knowing, and I think it would provide you with a really context-specific, solid example of how Indigenous people in New Zealand have attempted to do some of the things that you're trying to do in terms of space, in terms of curriculum, in terms of affirming students' cultural identity, and that's just quite a strong recommendation for you to have a little look at.
We'll give you that.
Yeah,
we'll give
it to you.
No problem.
Hi, thank you very much. You've certainly wanting to do a huge area of research. I guess one of the skills will be sort of defining it down and doing something that's more easily achievable, or having small bites of where things are achievable. And certainly your idea is a good one. Also, there are local schools around this area, not too far away, Gladstone Primary, Point Chev, where primary as well, where it might be useful to actually see some of the buildings in those schools and find out from teachers and some of the students whether or not the way the buildings are might influence them in terms of whether they enjoy learning or what have you. So you haven't mentioned that in your case study research, and I don't know whether or not there's already, if you were going to use Google, whether if you Googled you might find some of that. So it's a really interesting concept. The key, I suppose, is to make sure that you get the outcomes you're looking for by heading the research in the right way.
Lynala, at this stage, this looks very abstract. We don't know where this is, and if you don't say where this is, then it could be anywhere in the world, and I don't think you can deal with the problem of education in the entire world. It's too big. So it really needs to be narrowed down to a specific social and geographic context. I would think it would be Auckland, would it, or not necessarily?
Auckland.
It will be Auckland. Okay. And did you say at the beginning that this is about high schools and not all schools?
High schools.
It is about high schools.
K-12, yeah, high
right?
school.
So we're talking probably about a few high schools or grammar schools or colleges around this part of Auckland or wherever you live in Auckland. Okay. So I think identifying a sample of schools that you want to have a look at their grounds and their teaching process and assess them and simply play. We don't want to spend 2 years on this, do we? Or do some design as soon as possible. So identifying the sample, it would be, I think, critical to do that as soon as possible. Secondly, the other vague thing about this proposal is that there isn't enough design and the spatial and the visual stuff in this for me. Somebody, listening to your presentation would get an impression that this is about pedagogy and about learning and psychology and social issues and kind of like a social study or a psychological or a pedagogical study rather than a design exercise. So the design and the spatial and the visual, I think, must enter this project way more. And it would help, actually, if you showed us in the beginning a few examples of precedents of schools which you think are doing it well somewhere else in the world, and then with some idea of what you see as the design, what you're guessing at this stage might be the design concept of the design approach. So, see, overall I'm suggesting let's have exactly a shortcut to design issues in this project. Otherwise, it's huge. It's pedagogy, it's social issues, it's how people learn, it's endless, it's huge. The literature is enormous in this area, you probably don't realize at this stage. So we want to get, cut through that sort of psychological and pedagogical research straight into design issues. You are facing quite there's a paradox in your project, because you're saying, I think you're kind of implying that students want to get out more and see the real world. So the design is not actually about the design of the school, is it? Or it still is? So what is it? You can't design the whole city so that it's nice for learning. So what are you designing? Yeah.
The school.
The schools. Okay. But you just said you want students to get out of the school. So it sounds like the school doesn't matter. So what's going on?
I wanted to say that the outer spaces can be designed very interestingly. They could learn from that environment too.
So the school campus is like a little world, in a way, a little city or whatever it is. See, these things they're very interesting. Yeah. But you state them, say that right now. Obviously you know that, but you're not telling us the most interesting thing.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, because your research topic is green schools, but it doesn't actually, which I was expecting something quite different from what you've actually presented. So, I mean, I think it's a good topic, but I think that
I was actually focusing on the landscape of the schools, but I wanted to make it more educational too in the schools, so it came in that way.
Are you in landscape or architecture?
The landscape.
Landscape, okay. So it is the outdoors of the campus of a typical school. So I guess what you want to suggest is that the design of that school campus, the landscape, is what is the main teaching.
How could it be more educational? How could it be the learning from that?
Yeah. And for example, one of the closest schools is Mount Albert Grammar, and they've got a beautiful old school that was built probably over 100 years ago, and the new buildings were leaky and they had to replace them all. But it's quite a different, and so there'd be a good contrast from students. Which parts of the school they like learning better and better learning, etc. So some schools in themselves are good case studies.
Also, I think the landscape in Mount Albert is very interesting.
Yes.
They had a farm.
Yes.
And so the whole point of the school, the whole idea, but the whole point was that some students could work on the farm.
And they do.
And they do, they still do.
Yes, they still do. My daughter did learned how to drive a tractor. I think those were the only 2 grades she got. She learned how to drive a tractor, but they learned how to milk cows, how the different pasture and what have you. So it's a really unique, I think, in Auckland to have a school farm as part of the learning process.
Yeah. And actually with Mount Albert, it's at the base of the maunga, or the mountain of which it is named after. So although the mountain is not within the confines of the school, in terms of landscape, it's right on their doorstep. It's probably an under-resourced learning tool.
And in fact, I was on that grounds just 2 weeks ago, because someone's wanting to build a great big huge new house to obliterate the maunga. So I stood on the farm grounds, took some photographs, and I'm trying to get the Maunga Authority to oppose the building of all those houses that I think are going to obliterating the cone. So it's a really good space, the school farm. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's some really, really good suggestions from the panel. So it's you've got a really rich subject, but I think as Dushka said, you've just got to tell us right at the beginning. I went to a school landscape. Really as dumb as that, and then I think as Catherine said, there's some really rich traditions, really rich kind of teaching models in Auckland to look at, in New Zealand to look at, to situate your research work. And then, as Glenn said, there's some great schools around, just in the area with great landscapes, so you could, situate your case studies within that. Very, 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 very simply, I think. Okay, so thanks very much for that. That's really good.